Hello, hello. Welcome to my humble show. I'm Julia Holly. You know me as the owner of Jay's Creative, but I also do Filipino Hustle Fridays. This is a live stream series. Thank you so much, Vince Garcia, for joining us today to talk about Filipino Hustle Fridays and your story of entrepreneurship and why you started Kasama Chocolate.
Thanks so much, Julia. Glad to be on the show. Hello from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Pacific Northwest.
Let me do a quick intro, and then I'm sure you're going to do a better job at it. But of course, I didn't even do it right away when I should have. But here you go. Vince Garcia is one of the co-founders of Kasama Chocolate, a Vancouver-based bean-to-bar chocolate company. The idea for the chocolate business began when Vince inherited a small cacao farm. Okay, I'm going to butcher this, and you can correct me, of course. Is it Tao? Tuao?
Tuao.
Cagayan Valley, Philippines. And he travels to the Philippines several times a year to connect with cacao farmers, helping Kasama expand its cacao sourcing across various regions. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk about your story.
Thanks so much, Julia. Again, pleasure to be here. Am I? Okay, there's my video.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Vincent Garcia. I'm one of the co-founders and owners of Kasama Chocolate here on Granville Island in beautiful British Columbia on the northwest side of Canada. We started this company in 2015, and how we started was the year before that, 2014, I inherited a little bit of land in Tuao in Cagayan Valley, Region 2 in the Philippines. And my dad and his siblings obviously are from the northern part of the Philippines, and they had either immigrated abroad or had left that part of the Philippines many, many years ago. And so we've just had like farmland sitting idle for like decades. So my dad wanted me to accompany him that summer to help find a buyer. I think this is a very common story for lots of Filipinos who are inheriting land. And I asked my dad if it's worth it for me to go there. He said it's super rural. There's no point in me going. I had never actually been there before. But the neat thing is he showed me a picture of a property, and I thought he was holding mangoes. He was standing beside a tree, and I said, "Cool, we have mangoes." And he said, "No, that's actually cacao." And I said, "Cacao, like chocolate?" And he's like, "Yep." And honestly, I did not care at all. I said, "Okay, I'll go with you." Literally 3 days later, I met up with my friends who are now my business partners, Steph and Oliver and Dominic, and told them the news, showed them the picture. They thought it was mangoes too. But when we found out, when they heard it was cacao, they said, "Oh, could your dad bring back some like cacao beans and we could try to make some chocolate just for fun?" The side story is before we were actually making chocolate, we used to make our own beer. This is before the whole craft brew scene became a big thing on the West Coast here. And so we already had a lot of experience just like experimenting with things that we've never done before. So when this opportunity came up, we started making chocolate. It tasted really bad at the beginning. We didn't know what we were doing. I think our first chocolate bar that we made literally from cacao beans from the Philippines, we burned it. I think it tasted like pizza cardboard. It was horrible. But that was many, many years ago. About later that calendar year, we discovered the Northwest Chocolate Festival, which is the largest craft chocolate festival in the U.S. that they host in Seattle every year. And that was the game-changing moment for us because we saw makers from Japan, from Italy, from Ecuador. Chocolate bars were like, $15 US, 25 US per chocolate bar. And we were like blown away, like, why is this chocolate so expensive? And when we tried, I remember trying a chocolate, it was about 80%, 88% from Madagascar. And I said, I asked the person who was selling the chocolate, "Are you putting strawberries in your chocolate?" And they said, "No, that's just from the cacao bean." So I was shocked that a dark chocolate could taste like strawberries. And then we found out that there's mass-produced chocolate, which is the stuff that we've probably all eaten, the Lindt, the Nestle's, the Cadbury of the world. And then you have this fine-flavored cacao, which is what craft chocolate and bean-to-bar is all about, is really well cared for cacao trees that have been really meticulously fermented, which is probably the biggest components of making chocolate or fine flavored chocolate. It is during that fermentation where you get all these interesting flavors. And at that point, we said, okay, we had this weird light bulb moment. There's an opportunity here. Nobody is using like Philippine cacao. A lot of Filipinos didn't know that cacao grew in the Philippines. And we had access to the origin as well. And so we started the company. We're a group of friends. So because the word Kasama, that's where it came from. Meaning, friendship, togetherness, camaraderie, collaboration. And that's been a driving force for a lot of our values since we started. And we started doing farmers markets, and lo and behold, 10 years later, here we are in Granville Island. Who would have thought that we'd be having this conversation, actually? So it's really blessed to have this opportunity. It was a complete fluke. We took it and ran with it, and here we are. So
That's wonderful. I love that story. And I was flying through the pictures thinking like it was not on screen, but it was a
sorry if I talk too fast.
so
Decompress
cool.
it.
I saw how now I know why you thought it does look like a mango. I've never seen
Right?
it before. And I would have pictured like a dark brown large thing,
Right?
That's how ignorant I am with that stuff. But it's so cool. I love chocolate. I
Who
love
doesn't?
dark chocolate. I have a weakness for milk chocolate. I know it's like more sugar and stuff, and I know white chocolate is not real, but I love white chocolate. So, like, I love the story of accidental entrepreneurship. That's very normal, actually. Sometimes people get into it intentionally, and sometimes people like accidentally realize, like, oh, I'm actually an entrepreneur, and I want to solve this specific problem. Um, so, like, you've honed in on your craft and you've gotten a lot of awards. Do you kind of expect that would happen? Like, what do you think, like, what led to that? And what did you do before all of this?
So would we expect those awards? No. What we did is we first started off. We had all these cacao beans that we had to use up. So every weekend we'd meet up and we would just play around with recipes. I mean, it obviously started tasting better and didn't taste like burnt pizza anymore. And we actually started a little subscription model for our friends and family. Most of them we just gave away for free, but over time people started offering us, $5. They'd give us $5 Canadian, which is like what, $3 US. $5 Canadian for like just random Ziploc bags of chocolate that we made that week. And that subscription started to slowly grow. And people actually started to say, hey, your chocolate's starting to taste like better. So I think that's just part of our personalities too. Like a lot of us are kind of, again, coming from that craft brewery background, is like continuously trying to improve your product and learn from your mistakes. Sorry, and the second part of your question was, so yeah, we didn't expect any awards. So 2019 was a big year for us. We won, like, I think 2 awards. We were just over the moon because we were still making it in like a spare bedroom in a house on the east side of town. And again, that we hadn't actually taken any proper like training, but we were part of a lot of forums, like a lot of chocolate enthusiast groups. So like that feedback was super critical for us to get better. But Julia, can you just repeat again the second part of the question?
Oh, you pretty much answered my question. Like that. I was like,
oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So it was, if you expected the awards, obviously, if that's something that you were aiming for. And then the other part really was just before you started getting into brewery and just this whole journey of entrepreneurship. Like, what were the expectations of your parents
Yes.
for, and like, what was your background?
So my parents, again, my parents immigrated from the Philippines to Canada in the 1970s. When they saw me starting to fall in love with this idea of like going back to the Philippines and like maybe working with this property that's just been left there to kind of just collect dust, I think they're a little bit concerned too, because none of us really had any business experience. So to answer that question, I'm a communication major. I went to university for communication. Initially, I was supposed to go into physiotherapy. That didn't work out. So I was actually doing like freelance branding and graphic design prior to this. Stefan worked in web. Yes, Stefan worked in web development and like project management for like a lot of tech companies. Oliver was kind of the food scientist of the group. He had a computer science background, but he does a lot of our copy. He's probably got the most sophisticated palette of all of us. And then Dom was actually an animator for My Little Pony. So a lot of the art that you see from original packaging that still exists today was done by a team of animators from My Little Pony, who did it for chocolate because we couldn't afford really much when we first started. So, and that being said, all those four skill sets combined, that's a pretty awesome like team to have, and all the different thinking caps too. We have everything from the realist to the pragmatic one to the optimist, and then the crazy dreamer. You can probably guess who the crazy dreamer is. But I think having all of those thinking caps and those different complementary skill sets are probably the keys to our success to where we are today.
That is so cool. I would have guessed that you were the one who designed it because you have that design background, but I didn't even realize we didn't dive into your team background. But that I love. My Little Pony, I grew up on that, and so I appreciate.
Yeah.
But the colors are beautiful. You guys really, and I love that you guys invested in great packaging. That really makes or breaks any kind of food, really. I mean, honestly, any kind of food type of product. And so, and even with chocolate, that is so like you said, you guys are a great mix of personalities. How do you guys manage to come up with decisions together since it is a good sized group of partners?
I'd say early on it was a lot of uncertainty, so that was the scariest part. So that's where like the dreamers and the risk takers excel. That's where the realists and the pragmatists are like, oh gosh, like this is not going to work out. I think the main thing was we did kind of plan things out ahead of time without having the data, but in hindsight, that was probably one of the best things we could have done because that built a lot of our kind of systems that we still use today. It wasn't easy. Obviously, there was a lot of, especially something that we've never done before. And then they say not to do business with friends and family, so we're clearly breaking that rule. No, but we're really lucky that we were able to kind of find ways. I think again because our skill sets were so complementary that we didn't really overlap too much in terms of each other's domains in terms of what we specialize in. So the dreamers can dream, the planners can plan, the spreadsheet people can make the spreadsheets, and the recipe developers and the master chocolatiers, for instance, or chocolate makers can just focus on the areas that they excel in, and we didn't really have to step on anyone's toes. But it wasn't smooth sailing. I'll definitely say that. I wouldn't. I mean, there was a lot to risk that time, and there was a lot of disagreements. But I think that at the end of the day, we all just found what was best for the company and the business and the brand. So knowing that in mind, it's kind of like a team mentality. And one thing I should mention too is we all played roller. Very Canadian thing to do. We all used to play roller hockey together, so you're already kind of in that kind of team setting. So that would definitely help a lot. Yeah.
So okay, not you said indoor hockey or is that ice hockey?
We were playing outdoor hockey, roller hockey.
Oh, outdoor.
Yeah.
Does that mean because in Canada, over in Vancouver, is there a lot of snow there?
No. So it's like rollerblades and concrete.
Oh, roller. Okay.
Yeah. Roller hockey.
Like that side of the East Coast, like that, it definitely gets cool there. Yeah, it's beautiful over there. I've been there, and we had some funny conversations earlier about Canadians being super friendly, and it's really true. And then I said, on top of that, you're Filipino, so you're extra friendly. With Filipinos being friendly already, at least most people that I know. And on top of that, you're friendly Canadian. So, yeah. So, like you were saying, it's kind of neat. What is your observation to the culture over there with Filipino Canadians and Filipino Americans? I didn't even realize there was such a good population of Filipino Australians, right? And
yes.
New Zealanders. And so, of course, Hawaii, still part of the U.S., but still Hawaiian Filipinos are different too.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the neatest things that I've found being an entrepreneur and being a Filipino background is just the differences between Filipino Canadians in the business realm and Filipino Americans in the business realm. I think our operating systems are so much different. And I think it just comes to us being a little bit more risk averse too. There's this kind of go big or go home approach that I feel a lot of the Filipino Americans have, which is great. Shoot for the moon, and if you fall short, you still hit the stars. Whereas Filipinos, from my own experience, they're more realistic and more conservative with their kind of goals. And that could just be a generational thing. Like before we started, we were chatting earlier. How like I feel like Canada's still a pretty young country, with a still pretty fairly new identity that we're still trying to build. And so being Filipino in that environment versus being in the States, we already have like multiple generations of Filipinos. It's really well established, and that's really evident in just in terms of the food scene. And so our proximity, Vancouver's proximity to Seattle, being a 2-hour drive away, they're like light years ahead of us, I find at times. So it's kind of like looking in the future, like I was telling you. So at least that's my personal observation, is when I talk to a lot of Filipino Americans who are in business, and just the way that they're able to execute things a lot faster, because I think that people just get it. Because here it's still like an educational thing, and Filipinos are still trying to get comfortable in terms of, like I did a talk recently, and we're just talking about how it's cool. Like Filipino culture and food is trending globally right now, which is great for a chocolate business like ourselves. But it's just interesting to see like your culture is as like a cool commodity, kind of like you saw the Koreans with the K-pop and like Korean fried chicken, so you can like Filipino fried chicken now and like Pinoy pop. So it's just really interesting to kind of like step back and look at that and be like, people who are not Filipino or interacting with content that's being made by Filipinos is really fascinating, and that we don't have to worry so much about that validation that maybe we'd have to worry about in maybe the 1990s or early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I was telling you earlier that I noticed that, I don't know what it is, but Filipino Canadian business owners are more visible online to me. I mean, I see some, accounts here and there in America and everything, but it's not, I don't know why, but a lot of it is a combination of entertainers, musicians, obviously very strong dancers, singers. I see a lot of karaoke groups from the Philippines that are killing it. You probably see that go viral. But I don't know why, but I'm not seeing like a ton. Maybe my algo is not feeding me that content. So I love to hear from Filipino business owners from America, please. But yeah, no, it is interesting. I think we're still, like, I'll say for myself, like Gen X Filipino Americans are still like kind of cautious. Like I wish I can go all in, but I'm not like taking these huge major steps, maybe because we're a little older, we're more occupied, whatever, and then we worked on another dream for other people versus our dream,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Or we're finally coming to realize now, like, okay, let's just do it. Like, don't think about it anymore. Who cares what other people think, kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's really awesome, and I really like the fact that your partners are not even Filipino. Like that, how so? Like they are supporting this brand, right? Like I'm looking and I'm like, it's a good mix. You got a diverse group.
Two Germans and a Swiss guy and a Filipino guy. That's a pretty good combination for chocolate, isn't it?
Yeah, like so they like was you were the dreamer, you had the vision, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. Like that's how it just happened.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I think most kind of BIPOC businesses in the food realm, especially if it's chocolate, if you're going to sell chocolate to the masses, you'd probably be thinking, we got to use a European word. And we're like, okay, well, we have like somebody who's got a Swiss heritage, we got some German heritage here. But at last, so we were actually we had a code name for the project. It was Tobias or Tobias, which is how you say Tobias in like Switzerland. So we're like, okay, this should be like pretty easy. Just market it as kind of like Swiss style chocolate. But and I'm like, like our origin story started in the Philippines. We're using a really unique, like raw commodity that's from the Philippines that literally we have a direct access to, and B, we're friends. So what kind of thing can we honor all of that? That's maybe Filipino. And I remember I suggest, and actually my mom would call me and be like, like Vincent Sanka, like, oh, make sinong kasama mo? Who are you with? And my answer would always be like Stefan, Oliver, and Dom. So my mom
I love that
all the time. So I'm like, my mom I gotta give props to my mom for coming up with that. Well, she always asks like, whose mom doesn't ask those questions? Kasama is a word that we literally use every day in the Philippines. Everyone's gonna ask, who are you with? Like, who are you going with? And what I found interesting is when I would ask people, how would you pronounce Kasama? They'd be like, Kasama. They'd have a hard time. And I'm pretty familiar with the brand Lululemon, which started in Vancouver. So when Lululemon first came out, people would be like Lululemon, and I just realized that the more you think about how to pronounce a brand, the more it stays in your head. So with people saying Kasama, even to this day, people still be like, am I saying it right? I mean, the fact that you're thinking about it is actually a good thing. I mean, in terms of branding. I mean, I came from a communication background. So things kind of just really worked out well. And my business partners are all for it. I think it was a really easy. I'd always, me being again a Gen X, there's a term that people say like kind of half assimilated. Like I had to kind of shed a lot of my Filipino-ness growing up just to assimilate, which a lot of the younger generation now doesn't have to do. So I kind of understand that a bit of fear of just going full in on something that's like cultural. But yeah, in the big picture, everything kind of just lined up really well, and we're really happy how things have ended up so far. So
it's really cool. I love how like things lined up really. I mean, when you went over there to the Philippines, and then the brand name, and it's just, and your mom, of course. Like, it's true. I ask my daughter all the time, "Who are you with?" And she's like, "Why do you always ask that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, you just reminded me." Our moms ask that all the time. What are you doing? You know, what are you doing? Anyways, but I love the brand name and the packaging. I should bring up the other ones that you guys have so many products
too
too.
many.
Really, that means you're super creative. I mean, so you guys just taste different flavors? Like, how do you guys come up with the inspiration with your ideas on
So being in Vancouver, we're a very food-centric city. We have some of the best, like freshest fish, like Pacific Ocean right here.
Wonderful food.
There is a very big Asian population here, predominantly Chinese, obviously Cantonese, Taiwanese. And recently, like, there's been a lot of Michelin kind of awarded restaurants in the last couple of years. And so being in the food and beverage industry in Vancouver and me having personal relationships with all these chefs and people in the food industry, just going out for beers with people in the industry, you talk about like, oh, like, have you seen this flavor combination before? Or people coming back from vacation in Asia. It's really a nice hub for a lot of these kind of neat combinations of ingredients. So for us to be, I think that's a kind of a geographic thing, being in Vancouver with a lot of like world-class food. It's kind of a blessing in disguise for us because it's right in our backyard, and a lot of our customers too who are in the food industry will give suggestions on maybe a flavor combination. So a lot of our flavor development, recipe development comes from, it's kind of like built by the community here, which is nice.
That's so cool. And it looks like you also, let me pull this up too, like you guys have in-person events.
We do like chocolate workshops. Yeah, we do chocolate tastings. We're planning on doing some chocolate making workshops. And then I should probably mention too that being on Granville Island, which is probably the heaviest kind of foot traffic for tourists in all of Canada, us in, excuse me, Granville Island and Niagara Falls in Ontario, we have lots of people coming from around the world, and a lot of like face-to-face interactions with our customers, which is really nice too, especially small business like us.
Did they tell you, like, they heard about you through Instagram, like how we found you?
Yep, they'll say they saw something, or like their relatives might have told them to visit. Like chocolate's a great gift to bring back to people when you're traveling. So a lot of our customers will usually be coming in for like maybe at most a week, maybe sometimes just a day or two, and they'll make it a habit to come visit us. That's really nice, and we're again really thankful for that. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, take your drink. I'm gonna pull up your website and make sure that we feature that too, because I'm sure, I mean, we did share some pictures, but I want to make sure that we pull that up for you. Here you go. Because I'm sure your team did such a good job of that.
We're redoing our website too, so there might be a few glitches. Apologize.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry. It's just a quick sweep through. You're so funny. But so do people like literally just come in person to get the chocolate, or do you also wholesale or special order? Like how are you making your revenue?
Yeah, so we do a lot of direct sales through our shop, do a lot of online sales as well. We ship across North America, so Canada and the US. And we also do wholesale to a lot of specialty boutique shops, a lot of like fine cheese or meat shops, both in the US and Canada. And we also have wholesalers in the UK and Australia as well. So we've kind of grown our we've kind of had this model of let the demand fuel the growth. So that's why it might have taken a bit longer for us to get to where we are today. We didn't, again, like we had like a budget of maybe like, I don't know, when we very first started, maybe like $1,000, but none of us wanted to like blow any money on a hobby project like this.
Yeah.
I think that's the nice thing, because I know a lot of people who would approach business very differently. You know, like you put all this money into the startup and then raise all the capital, and then now you're pressured to do sales. You've actually never had your sales, which is nice.
Awesome. Ooh, you do a chocolate torrent tasting. Is that similar, or is that a different type of event?
That's one we do almost every other week. So we'll give people a chance to come tour the shop. We give a little behind the scenes of how we make the chocolate, and then we do a tasting of different chocolates from different origins. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so like starting from no experience, it's amazing how you've already won awards. Like, how did you guys start exploring the possibility of winning an award? Like, did someone say, hey, you should submit this, it's going to win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that we have to like really give credit to and thanks for. We're lucky that we have there's a company in Victoria, which is an island off of about 2-hour ferry ride from Vancouver. The shop called the Chocolate Project, and the owner, David Minsky, is well regarded throughout the world for craft chocolate. And so it took us 5 years to get into his shop, but he constantly encouraged us to keep working on our craft, and started giving us contacts within the industry in Peru and Hawaii and different parts of the world who are really experts in the field. And I think once we saw that, and the president of Pam Williams, president of École Chocolat, which is an international chocolate school, these people who actually gave us their time, whether it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes out of their busy schedules, to meet with us and give us feedback on our product. And we were very open to feedback. Like we always told people back then, like, if it's not good, just don't worry about making us cry or hurting our feelings. Excuse me. So I think the industry is still very small. It's very niche, but it's growing. And we're standing on the shoulders of giants. There's a lot of people who've been in this industry much longer than us. We're just reaping the rewards of being at the right place at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, seriously, like Filipino food is trending for sure. I mean, Ubi took off. I mean, I could see your product being in a Trader Joe's. I mean, I don't know if you guys would be open to that kind of. Like the packaging is so beautiful. Like look at it, and I love how I have to try this white chocolate one, the calamansi. I'm curious. It just makes me want to. I'm already like I'm hungry now, and then I see. There's probably like really cool stories behind why you did these.
We do a lot of collaborations with artists. We've started collaborating with Filipino American artists. That Calamansi one was done by Janelle Quibian in Seattle. The Forest and Sea was done by a local Taiwanese artist, Anne Liao.
Is this one chocolate awards? Yeah, it says it's labeled it. It won some awards.
It did win a gold at the Worlds in Germany a few years back. So
wow, that's awesome. Oh yeah, this one too, Muscovado.
Philippine Muscovado sugar, yes, a very underutilized ingredient that can make really fabulous like chocolate, and I'm sure lots of different types of desserts. And
so even like I see that you throw in a little bit of whiskey.
We do a whiskey bar. You see that black one's a Tanduay Rum. It's an official collaboration with Tanduay Rum Philippines.
Nice.
And they reached out to us, I think, after we started to get a bit more exposure. So it was really kind of them to supply us with the rum. And I see there's a spot missing there too. So I'll let Stefan know to fix that.
It's the designer side in us, I can see like, okay, okay. But yeah, that is so cool. This is so impressive, and I obviously I want to be respectful of your time, and I can keep going, but before and I make sure that everybody knows how to follow you because wait here, let me pull this up. There is. Yes. So obviously we've been sharing your website, kasamachocolate.com. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight before we start concluding and wrapping up?
Yeah, I think one thing is we just this last year I just came back from the Philippines a few weeks ago, so we're actually planting our own cacao. There is a global shortage right now for cacao, and the prices are starting to skyrocket. So having our own source that we can depend on is really critical, which would make us now treatable. So we'd be fermenting our own beans, and we do have some new releases coming out the next couple of weeks. We're just waiting for our boxes. Some really cool. We're doing a turon bar. So it'll be like a jackfruit white chocolate with banana chips and caramel in it. And I think we'll probably do another release for Patisse caramel. So we do like a fish sauce caramel as well, which has been really popular.
Really? That's different.
Yeah. And yeah, it's quite neat and quite popular, and that's why we never have it in stock because it's always selling out. But if people want to find out more, they can check our website out, kasamachocolate.com, or follow us on Instagram, Kasama Chocolate. And yeah, it's a great gift for the holidays coming up. So, and we're doing an event next weekend in Seattle for Filipino American Heritage Month. So if anybody out there is in the Northwest and near Seattle, head down to Hood Famous in Chinatown, and I will be there next Saturday. So
that's so cool. And like I said, I want to place an order for my sister because she's on the West Coast. I think she'll appreciate this little gift. But what would you say for any Filipinos out there considering starting a business? Just let's end with a tip of advice from you, since you've been on this journey for a while. What would you say to someone considering to start?
I'd say it's never too late to start, but the window, how open your window for opportunity is. There is a window, a definite window. I think the sooner you try something out, or if you have that itch to want to try to do something in terms of a business or a service, to try it sooner than later, and that failure is the best teacher. I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. And I always tell people this. I've had so many people come to me and ask, they have this really cool idea. I said, well, if they don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So it might as well be you. And again, like I think the planning part, and obviously not just throwing all your savings into a hope and prayer, but I think just doing just like any kind of school project, you do your research, you have your hypothesis, and then you do your experiment and you try it out. Don't fear failure.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. That's what I tell everybody. Start sooner than later if you have that inkling to actually want to try. And great advice. I would love, this makes me think about, you probably have seen The Bear because you're into.
No, actually, I have a lot of cultural blind spots. I have never watched Sopranos. There's so many things that I have so many.
It just makes me think of it's almost like underdog chef, talented chef type thing, and then he's working his way up to Anyways, I was thinking that it's so cool that you just started from nothing. You weren't afraid of what would happen, and not even having any kind of expertise, but just being open to learning. And look what you guys have done. So I really wish you guys more success and growth. And please keep me updated. I would love to. We're going to finally launch our email newsletter on Filipino Hustle Fridays because it's all just been episodes, but we'd love to start pushing out emails and making sure that everybody knows one another. Guests are learning about one another. Potential collaborations could happen that way. And yeah, thank you so much for hopping on Filipino Hustle Fridays.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Julia.
And I'll go ahead and just end this. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. Would love to feature more Filipinos, Filipino Americans, Filipino Canadians. Hey, Filipino Australians, we could work out the time zone. And Vince, hang on for me and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye.